Takuma is a lonely, disgusting, sweaty gamer whose only joy in this world is to see and gain couples and crash them to make them feel his pain as a single loser with no social skills, with his character called Diablo. He mastered it to the level where he defeated the Demon Lord and sat on his throne. Suddenly, a bright light appeared and bro instantly gets the introduction that tells him that this is gonna be a show with a lot of plot. He sees himself in another body and is summoned by two girls with different personalities. The elf girl with two huge personalities, Shira, and the other, a demi-human called Rem, and he himself became his in-game character Diablo. While both of them were arguing, Diablo started to understand his situation. He was Isekai'd to another world without getting hit by a truck or falling downstairs, you know, the pretty standards, and the kiss was a summoning ritual. He wanted to communicate, but stays quiet like a bitch, because like every disgusting, sweaty gamer, he was antisocial. Takuma channels his inner 8th grader syndrome and becomes his in-game character, commanding the two girls to shut up. They were shocked their summon could talk, and then Diablo tells them in a commanding tone to become his harem, even though in the beginning they refused, but due to some magic they were forced to comply. Suddenly, slave collars which were supposed to be on Diablo's neck appeared on their necks. He remembers that he is wearing an anti-magic ring, which reflects every magic directed to him. The two dumb girls were still acting high and mighty all the way, so Diablo clarifies that he is a demon lord, so he isn't a mere summon, and they decide to go to the city to solve their problem, while Diablo's eyes were on the story plot. Once they got to town, the party went to an inn to get a place to stay. The cheap elf with big personalities says that Diablo is gonna sleep with her, but the other lacking the personalities retorts saying she was the one who was going to get the honors. The innkeeper finds an easy solution for this, and all the gamer could think of was how he was going to change his status from virgin real soon.
Yes! 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 Yes!
A knock was heard on their door.
No! No! No!
A mage followed by her underlings enters the room. She introduces herself as Celestine Baudelaire, the head of the Mage Association, and she is even an important figure in this world, which baffles Diablo. She says she actually has business with Rem, but seeing the slave collar on both of them, she's interested to hear the story. While Shira with the huge personalities was eating sausage, Diablo explains the situation to Celeste. He then proceeds to ask for her reason for coming, but a random extra butts in to shut Diablo up. Diablo looks at him and swears to make him his bitch before Celeste intervenes and tells the random to shut up if he knows what's good for him. Celeste then tries to persuade Rem to receive her help, but she declines, saying she wants to make it on her own, although help remove the collar would be appreciated. Then Celeste gets up and leaves while Diablo tries to find out why Harem number 1 had such an important figure come here to help her. With his gamer intuition kicking in, he picks up Rem and tells the one with big personalities that she's next if she butts in. Diablo drops her on the bed and tells her to reveal the secret. Realizing the opportunity he has, he starts revealing his fetish. While weak to her urges, she tells him that she is scared he will leave her if he finds out. To which Diablo responds that he is the most powerful person here and that he will never leave her. After the whole petting section, which was heard outside the room by the way, she ends up disclosing that she has the soul of the demon lord Krebscrum inside of her. Diablo remembers that Krebscrum is the real demon lord, but he was the most powerful player in the game, but didn't meet Krebscrum, so he ended up taking the title. With the explanation, the entire Celeste situation makes sense since she's one of the few people who knows her secret. It's also a fact that if Rem died, the Demon Lord would be released. Diablo also finds out that her situation is hereditary and feels pity for her. So he tells her that he will find a way to safely remove the Demon Lord from her, which moves Rem to tears. While Diablo was outside deep in thought, the random extra, who had more alcohol than brains, fuck around and find out. Diablo attempts to avoid trouble, but he throws a bottle at him and challenges Diablo with his high, in air quotes, ranking monster, a level 30 salamander. The salamander breathes fire on Diablo and burns the whole area, but it has no effect on Diablo. As for him, level 30 is child's play. He walks towards the salamander while it is breathing fire on him, dragging his weapon out, and uses explosion magic to completely obliterate the creature, making the dude shaking in fear from what he just saw, and screams asking who is he. Diablo announces that he's a level 150 demon lord from another world. The next day, Diablo wakes up still in the Cross Reverie world and finds out that his hand is on one of Shira's personality. He tries to remain calm and remove it, but his hands betray his thoughts.
Yeah, boy.
Being a believer of equality, he didn't let Rem go unnoticed too. After the early morning drama, Diablo notices that the town is filled with all kinds of demi-humans, but no humans. The ladies then tell him that the village is in demi-human territory and both sides don't get along, which seems worse than it was in the game. He further inquires about the leveling system, but Rem tells them that they will find out once they get to the guild. Rem is already registered, so Shira and Diablo were meant to register. Diablo, being an illiterate piece of shit, gave Shira to do the filling. To reflect their level, they are meant to place their hand in front of the mirror. Shira got a reality check to find out she was a level 30 lower than Rem, who is a level 40. Although based on the current world, these levels aren't low in any way. When it is Diablo's turn, he tries to touch the mirror. The mirror goes out of control and becomes dysfunctional after looking at his ugly, disgusting face. The guildmaster, Sylvie, arrives at the scene. She takes him to her office and tells Diablo that it's the first time the mirror has seen such an ugly, disgusting face, and she's conflicted about hiring him since he's clearly strong. But she can't tell how strong. It would be weird to give orders to someone stronger than her and had such a face. But Diablo said as long as he gets paid, he doesn't care how weak his employer is. With that, she gives a quest just right for them so they can quickly leave. Their quest is to defeat the giant man-eating snake in the forests, which has some level of danger. But he tells the girls not to worry because he's here, feeling half embarrassed after saying it. Still on the move, Diablo mentions finding a teleport gate to get to their location faster, just like it was in the game, only to be mocked by the two of them that there is no such thing. They travel for 5 hours before reaching the forest. But after walking in the forest for a while, Shira points out that there are people following them, which shocks both of them. After getting all their general location, Diablo decides to blow their minds, leaving the forest burning and the elves to fall out of their hiding spots. Turns out Shira knows them, and they are there to rescue Shira, the elf princess, from the ugly, disgusting Diablo. Cue the shock in Diablo's face as he remembers that Shira's last name is part of the royal family of the elves, and the job request was a trap set up by someone who hates him to make it look like he's a slave trader. Shira's situation is then explained. She ran away from home because she didn't want to go to Alabama with her brother. She tells them times have changed, and she's a strong, independent woman who is free to make her own choices. Rem is moved and tells her she's also a pro-feminist, so she sees Shira in new light. Meanwhile, Diablo doesn't let their remark of him being an ugly slave trader slide, and told them he would make all of them his bitch. The ignorant lots tried shooting Diablo, but the arrows weren't even equivalent to toothpicks to Diablo. The leader of the ignorant lots pulled a flashier arrow, which is very strong and hard. He shoots it at Diablo, who stands still, and after the dust settles, we see the arrow fall down like his self-esteem, and Diablo walks unharmed. Diablo then decides to show them the difference in levels, and cast an enormous spell that freezes the whole forest as a show of his power and what he can do to them. But then the mastermind behind the misunderstanding shows up. It was none other than the random extra with a level 30 salamander. After he insults the elves, Diablo decides to give him one last warning, and Rem also puts him in his place by mentioning Celeste's name after he ran away like a bitch. Shira tells the elves that she isn't going to Alabama with her brother. She's already part of Diablo's harem. In the inn, with just Shira and Diablo, Shira talks about how high level Diablo is, but he mentions that the world is the one that has a low level. He figured out the reason why. It's because they aren't risking their lives to level up. Unlike the game where if you die you would be revived, here they only have one life. He says he can't have that mindset if he hopes to defeat Krebsgrim, which made the elf feel like Diablo's answer was equivalent to him choosing Rem over her, because she also talked about Krebsgrim. Then she pushes herself to Diablo. Diablo's hand with a mind of its own obviously likes her personalities. And Shira now knows she has an advantage over Rem, and of course, that's when Rem comes in and makes it impossible for them to smash tonight. The party returns to Sylvie, the guild master. Apparently someone requested Diablo personally, Celestine Baudelaire herself. Diablo accepts the quest, but Rem doesn't want to partake in this mission, so she doesn't owe Celeste anything. Diablo understands her and tells her to stay but not leave town. Before going out, they run into a young adventurer named Emile. He's clad in golden armor and is apparently the strongest fighter of this guild, probably one of those noob types who spend real money on in-game skins thinking it would improve their levels. He challenges Diablo to a fight as he thinks that Diablo has imprisoned both Shira and Rem. Diablo, a true lonely, disgusting gamer, doesn't back down from a challenge and accepts. Emile takes his stance and rushes towards him, using a predictable sword slash, of course. It doesn't affect Diablo. Then he moves to his other technique. It is one that normally takes a long time to execute and isn't meant for close combat. Diablo breaks the unspoken rule of waiting for your opponent to finish the transformation, leaving further disappointed in the current world level. Emile wants to fight again, but Rem and Shira stops the pathetic display and explains the situation to him, after which he laughs and leaves. While Diablo and Shira are on the journey, Shira gets bored and looks at the fresh water, then suggests that they should go swimming. Diablo, being a virgin, declines the offer thinking they might trigger a game-like event where higher-level monsters appear. Shira pushes her two personalities on Diablo and tells him that she's not yet powerful enough, but she wants to keep growing until she's strong and independent. When they get to their destination, everywhere is tense, and the soldiers are all on guard and even accuse Diablo of being a fallen. But one of them recognizes him because he is a famous one due to all these bad rumors about him. Apparently, the town scouts found out that over 100 fallen were en route to their location. Diablo is surprised because fallen are usually the boss-level demons of an area, and they never attack in groups. Shira wonders what they should do, and Diablo tells her they don't need to do anything. The soldiers would just be cannon fodder due to their weak levels, but they don't need to worry because they wouldn't be able to break Celeste Barrier. Shira mentioned that the Fallen's goal is to revive the real Demon Lord, which makes Diablo question if their goal was Rem. One of the soldiers came to give them the quest completion certificate for the guild, and despite the chaos, he doesn't want to die without completing his task. Even knowing that he's just a cannon fodder, he would still guard outside until all the citizens returned to the town. Along with Shira's eyes, this moved the disgusting gamer to do something about the situation. Diablo tells them to retreat to safety and close the bridge. He's gonna handle this army. From a distance, the leader of the monsters appears first. Then the fallen army starts to follow after. Diablo orders the two to run now and take cover, even so Shira is unsure about this. Then Diablo walks towards the fallen alone. The first fallen appears all high and mighty, but finds out real quick he's the real fodder. Meanwhile, inside the town, Celeste meets with Rem. She tells her that Random Extra has been dismissed due to all his actions, but he mentions something about Diablo being a demon lord, and Rem confirms this to her. Celeste was quite certain that there is no good demon lord in any other world, so Diablo is probably a fallen was attracted to her due to the demon lord Krebscrum inside her. Rem declines the possibility due to the fact that he had all the opportunity to kill her whenever he wanted. Suddenly, Random Extra appears at the inn revealing his Yandir side to Celeste. He brings out an ominous knife, and before anyone can react, stabs himself with it. His body starts to change, and he turns into a fallen who seems to be the instigator. At the battlefield outside, Diablo had cleared over 70% of the enemy forces, which made a figure who seemed to be the commander appear in front of him to do battle. Her name is Edelgard, and she claims to be the strongest lancer of the Fallen. Then she rushes to attack him. The Fallen at Rem's side mentions how Random Extra was the one who allowed him to sneak past Celeste Barrier. Random Extra ex-colleague decides to be cannon fodder so Rem can run away with Celeste. But Rem with her smart ass leads them to a dead end and lets the men's sacrifice go in vain. She uses her summon and orders it to attack the Fallen, but it's easily taken out with a single punch and falls back to his crystal. Then out of nowhere, Emile appears to their rescue, along with some other adventurers. He ran towards the Fallen and launched a series of attacks, but it was ineffective against him. Then the Fallen hits him with a series of black pews and mocks him. Despite their concerns, the adventurer Emil shows that he's not just all talk, and stands back up to defend them. Meanwhile, at Diablo's side, the strongest Lancer Fallen was using flash steps and showing incredible skills, but Diablo dodges them with ease. After seeing her attacks were ineffective, she decided to use a power skill called Sacrificial Charge to attack him. Diablo said he would give it the permission to hit him to see her ability, and she launches 3 consecutive attacks. But of course, Diablo tanks it like a boss in order to break her spirit. After showing the Fallen how fucked up she is, he tries to get her to surrender, but he hears that soldier calling to him, saying that a very strong enemy has entered the city and is massacring the adventurers to get to Celeste, and Rem is next to her. After understanding the plan of the Fallen to sneak someone in to kill Celeste and take down the barrier, he understood the urgency of the situation and finally decided to attack and use grand magic. Diablo still gives a warning that if they do not want to die, they should retreat and hide, but Edelgard refuses, with her single goal being to revive the Demon Lord. Diablo laughs at her for saying this in front of him, the only true Demon Lord. His magic first seemed like a little white dot before it released magic so strong that it blasted everything away from Diablo, including the bridge and the surrounding waters. Diablo was a little surprised Edelgard was still alive, but he didn't care. He meets with Shira and tries teleport to appear back in the town, where dozens of dead adventurers and a very wounded Emil are still standing trying to hold off the Fallen to protect Celeste and Rem. Seeing this, for the first time, Diablo was very angry. He gives Celeste a healing potion to use on Mr. Hero Emil, and asks the Fallen if he knows what he's about to do to him. The Fallen still isn't affected by these words, till Diablo tells him that he isn't going to get reinforcement from Edelgard, cause he annihilated the whole army. Of course, the Fallen didn't believe this and told him to not ask for mercy like his comrades. Then he tried using the black pews, but it's reflected back at him. Subsequently, Diablo also used the same attack back on the Fallen, and tells him that it's too early to be surprised. So the Fallen tries using black gravity, but Diablo doubles it and gives it back. After seeing he was heavily outclassed, the Fallen started begging for his life, but Diablo mentions that they've passed that point and used an attack like a black hole to suck the demon in a dark division to be sealed with pain for eternity. Both Shira and Rem thanked Diablo from the bottom of their heart. The next day, a funeral was held for the dead adventurers who sacrificed themselves to save the town, and Diablo realizes how much different the current world was from the game. In the morning, the guild master enters Diablo's room suddenly, but notices that she might have come in bad timing, and apologizes for cutting his harem time. But she has some news that can't wait. She tells him that the elves have given them a 10-day ultimatum to return Shira, or they will start a war. And since she can't force the man who single-handled the fallen army to do such a thing, or her old cheeks will be the replacement, she is here to request him to quietly look for a way to resolve the issue. After the guild master properly explained their role in the request, Diablo was left unsure of what to do to solve the issue. Sylvie added that the elf prince further added a huge bounty on Shira's head, one that would make an average commoner be set for life, so the stakes are very high. Diablo was angry at how much the elf prince was ready to go Alabama with his sister, so he vowed to Shira that anyone who tried to come near her would court death. Sylvie takes Diablo and the party to the lord of the town, who is himself the hero of the city and an insanely powerful person, to gain more information about the elves because he was the one who submitted the request. At the mansion, Sylvie tries to make a conversation with the lord, telling him about how Diablo and the party wanted to get extra information from him, but the lord snubbishly dismissed all her conversations and simply told them to go and figure a way out of this mess. The guild master Sylvie had to choose between bearing this arrogant lord or filling the gap in Diablo's harem. Of course she chose the first and pushed the lord to talk, which he did very arrogantly and introduced himself Chester Ray Galford. The others made their introduction, and it was finally Diablo's turn. With great difficulty, he managed a normal introduction, but when the lord asked if he was truly a demon lord, Diablo tautly asked if he wanted to find out by burning him into ashes. The lord, however, lets it slide. and directs them towards a map and informs them that the elves are reported to be hiding inside of the dense forests near a lake. And currently they estimate their forces to be near 100 individuals. The number isn't the problem, but the fact that they are skilled at hiding and would cause a huge loss to his forces. Diablo understood his explanation as the Lord using him as cannon fodder, but the Lord chimes back, saying he could as well give Shira back to prevent any issue, which Diablo decisively rejects. The Lord wonder why Shira doesn't want to live like a princess, but she says her goal is to be a powerful, independent, pro-feminist woman. He tells her he's a Sigma male, so he doesn't care. Seeing Shira feel sad, Diablo tells her she doesn't need to get approval from Sigma male to be a true feminist. The Lord showed his lack of care in their conversation and took it as if they were going to look for a way to prevent the war. With that, the Lord tells them that they will be accompanied by a royal emissary, an imperial knight, and introduces a nerdy girl in glasses named Alice. Rem and others mentioned that usually only men of extreme talent and a very high standing are allowed to become royal knights, but Alice said that she became qualified due to her skill. The royal knight stared at Rem's belly intensely like she knew something, while asking if Rem was troubled by anything. Afterwards, she gave the guild master the money for all the dead adventurers. While warming up to Shira, her communication skills are levels higher than our ugly, disgusting, lonely gamer. Being unable to match her skills, Diablo tells her she can do what she wants, but she shouldn't randomly talk to him if she doesn't want to die. Inwardly, so she doesn't discover his Demon Lord persona is false. This seemingly didn't deter the royal knight with insanely high social skills. Outside the mansion, the Demon Lord tells them they are going to a weapons shop because his staff level is too high, and he doesn't want to mistakenly kill someone in front of the Imperial Knight. After getting the weapon, Shira goes on ahead while Alice tries to catch her. But suddenly a smoke scene is released, and with that opportunity, bounty hunters kidnap Shira, while Diablo wanted to rescue her. 2 other bounty hunters appeared, but they didn't even serve as distraction, and Diablo was grateful that his new weapon was sufficient enough to hold back his powers. While other bounty hunters attack, Alice and Rem stop them, leaving Diablo to rush off at full speed to catch the kidnappers. Moments before Diablo was about to catch up to them, Golden Boy Emil struck them, saving Shira. Then they round up all the bounty hunters and thank Emil, and he says he would be the one to deal with the bounty hunters. Diablo tells her to stay close to him and not leave his side because he doesn't want to be a disgusting loner anymore. The Imperial Knight apologizes for letting the kidnapping happen on her watch, but Diablo tells her she should know her place. Her help was never needed, but just because she is a very worthless woman, it doesn't mean she doesn't have value, so she should forgive herself. Alice, being very uptight, swears that she will forgive herself. Suddenly, they start to hear Shira's belly noise, but it turns out that it's not her or Diablo's, but Alice's stomach, so they decide to postpone the jungle play until tomorrow and walk over to get some food. The next day, Celeste meets the party and tells them that she has figured out a way to remove their slave collars. A slave caravan had arrived recently, and they have a slave collars of a similar level to the girls, so she suggested visiting them at least. Alice, however, feels the war with elves issue is more pressing, but Diablo mentions that it doesn't matter what time they get to the elf village, so they should go to the slave caravan first. The party arrives at the market, and Diablo gets cold feet thinking it would be like how it is in mangas, but when they walk in, they find different girls eating, drinking tea, and relaxing, and of course they are slaves. A tall lady with personalities that can rival Shira appears. She sizes the girls up and offers to buy Shira and Rem for a good price, before Diablo tells her they aren't slaves. The woman mentions that she can sense Diablo's flow of mana. No living creature can bear his wrath, and Shira agrees too, shocking Rem that Shira could sense his mana. They give the slave lady Celeste's letter, which explains their circumstance. She mentions that she hasn't tried reflected magic spells before, but she would try. She also notices that Rem seems to have a similar type of mana to Diablo, asking if she is pregnant with a demon king's child, shocking everyone with Shira thinking Rem and Diablo has been giggity behind her back. While they were trying to figure out how it happened, the slave woman pressed on saying what she senses is a fallen inside her belly. But Diablo shuts her and tells her to focus on the task they came for. Realizing Diablo's interest in small melons, The slave trader feels that she's safe to ask the others to go outside to save her secret method. However, before going, Rem asks Shira whether she could see her mana the whole time, and she replies that she thought Rem was a very powerful adventurer for this, leaving Rem happy that Shira's two personalities are consuming all the food before it reaches the brain. Outside, Alice tries cheering Rem up about the feeling of their secret being spied on, and she decides to use a meaningless charm that helps keep secrets to calm Rem. After doing it, there is a reaction on Rem's hand which shocks Alice a bit before she feigned ignorance. Meanwhile, Rem says that it actually did make her feel better. Inside, Shira is with less clothing, and Diablo is meant to put his hands on her skin to try and find the spot that connects to the slave collar. Being a virgin gamer, Diablo had to imagine her as his wand before he found the spot, following the slave trader instructions to search for her seal. The remaining sets of instructions were so sus, so use your imagination. Afterward, despite all that, it was unsuccessful because Diablo wasn't skilled enough to get to the end, so they decided to try another time. About to settle for the day, Diablo realizes something and thinks that he's finally expanding his harem, but Alice shatters his dreams, saying she rented the room next to them. When she was about to leave, they suddenly heard a flute at the end of the door, and it was an elf. Furthermore, it is the incest-seeking elf brother. He introduces himself as Kira, the Prince of the Elves, and then tells Shira that he's there to take her back. As Shira frightened steps back, Diablo walks to his face and asks if he's that dude from Alabama that set a bounty reward on her head. The elf claimed that it was a misunderstanding on the hunter's part. He only wanted to praise the person who had been taking care of his dear little sister. Of course, no one buys all his bullshit, and kept spewing more, saying the elves never wanted war and they only want their princess back and it's all a misunderstanding. This shit keeps going with them facing him with what he did, but he denies it, saying all he cares about is Shira's happiness. He throws a question back to Diablo. If Shira decides to go back with them, what would he do? Diablo scoffs again, saying that it was a foolish question because it was impossible, but as a gentleman, he would also respect her wishes. The brother then gives Shira a time to rest and decide what to do. That night, Shira seems to be unable to sleep as she watches outside of the window. Rem notices and decides to talk to her, asking what her decision is. Shira firmly mentions that she's not going back with her brother no matter what. Rem asks whether she trusts her brother's behavior today, but she replies that she has no idea whether her brother was lying or not. And it didn't take time until their chatters evolve rapidly into a scene with a lot of plot development. Still the same night, the incest elf prince was blowing his whistle pipe, and then he looks to the sky like a maniac, saying that he can't wait to clap his sister. Sweetheart!